everybody is exhausted, we will try to make it fun. Today we will talk about having better health support for journalists. I'm Dima Hamdan, the head of the Merico Female Journalists Network. It was established 4 to 5 years ago. We exist to support female journalists in the Middle East. We provide support in different fields, but we're particularly interested in the psychological health. We deal with female journalists not only from war zones, Yemen, Iraq, Syria, but also others from more stable countries such as Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt. And because of their job nature, they may face different issues and traumas that may affect their health, psychological health. Yesterday, we had a relevant workshop, and we would like in this one to talk about the practical steps we have in our organization and learn from other organizations. We can't ask journalists to stop working just because they have psychological traumas. They need to know if they need help and what kind of help they need to get and what options they have. So we wanted to talk about the experiences from different organizations through Arij. We have Dr. Khalid. He is a family health consultant. Dr. Khalid worked with Medicolvin Network in the psychological health profile. And we have also Maha Sabalani. She's the coordinator in the IMS organization in Yemen. Yemen has experiences in this regard, and they have a different approach compared to us, and we can compare different experiences. And I hope that Ashraqat Ibrahim, she's a Yemeni journalist and a TV or show presenter. I hope that she will join us soon. She wanted to talk about her personal experience. She was her own consultant, and that helped her to provide consultation through a TV program. We wanted to start with Ashraqat first, but we will change the order of the talking points and presentations. We will start first to talk about the different workshops. I'm sure that the journalists here heard about regional workshops to bring all female and male journalists together, to give them practical steps on how to handle psychological disorders or traumas, and how to get psychological support. We will start with my colleague here. Would you please tell us more about Al Yemen program and tell me why you want in this program to focus on Yemen? Well, first of all, thank you all for coming, and thank you, Dima, for the introduction and the coordination. You did a great job on coordination to bring us all together. The IMS, which is the International Media Support Organization, we decided to develop a psychological health program cooperation with Dr. Khalid, who will elaborate more later on the program and his experience with us for several reasons. First of all, journalists in Yemen are like trapped inside the country, and they face a lot of problems, and they can't get out due to travel issues and movement issues and bans. Even internally, they live in war and in conflict. The first victim is the journalist. Female journalists in particular are even more victims than male journalists because Yemen is a conservative environment, and the psychological disorder or pain in itself is a stigma in Yemen. People look at those with psychological issues as crazy people. It's a challenge by itself to find women and females work in Yemen, and to be a journalist is another challenge. The third challenge is to be a journalist in war and conflict zones, and a fourth challenge is to say that she's having psychological issues because of her job or what she sees or what she deals with, because in other words people understand it that she's saying she's crazy. That's why it was important to develop a program for them, which is a window for them to vent out. The program with Dr. Khad was of two parts. The first one is educational, to learn more about psychological traumas, the definition, the kinds, how to deal with it, how to cooperate and help each other, and how to protect themselves from traumas. I'm sure Dr. Khalid will talk more about it. Second, we wanted to give them a venue or a channel to talk to someone else and feel protected, and they are not accused or they need to face the community or the society by their own. Thank you, Maha. Dr. Khalid, my question to you is this or was this your first experience in Yemen? You are specialized in psychology or psychology specialist, and what is the approach you use in psychological health? We know that in the Arab world there are certain things that you need to take into consideration when we talk about psychology and psychological traumas. So what were the challenges that you faced when we talk about journalists, not one or two, but a group of journalists that you need to deal with in few days? Well, first of all, thank you all for coming. Good evening. The biggest challenge with Yemen was that I work with them from a distance, and the group I talk the kind of group I talk to is another challenge. So it's not about the distance or connection or the logistics or the internet issue or glitches. It's about the kind of people I talk to. Sometimes when I talk to people, we face internet issues and we are disconnected. We also have cultural challenges. First, I ask the person if they want to talk to me on a video or not. I prefer video, voice, and image. I try my best, but if they prefer not to and I can't see them, for example, if they don't want to, so we go for an audio, not a video. I was surprised that while talking to one person, he was walking from his workplace to his home, and he was okay to talk on the way to his home about such things. So it's about the psychology education. People are usually not comfortable to talk about such issues with their friends around them. And they prefer to be by themselves. So we have different challenges, like I said. Also, for example, the number of sessions. How many sessions do I need to work with one person? How much to go in depth? So about Yemen, it's about the general education, psychological education, and the distance. But with time, we're learning more and more. They're learning more and more about psychological health. If you have any questions, please let us know. Raise your hand and let us know. We will go in more detail now. Another thing is we may now focus on Yemen. We're maybe focusing now on Yemen, but I would like to reiterate again that we're not talking only about Yemen or conflict zones. If you have other questions about psychological health in general that is not related to war or Yemen, please go ahead. But since we worked on Yemen, we are going to talk about Yemen. I would like to touch upon on a point that you mentioned, Doctor. We understand now that you have logistical challenges, but Also, we have educational challenges. It's important in sessions that people need to stay away from others to make sure that they are focused on the things that you talk to him about. Well, let me interrupt you here. People may think of this as chatting or venting out. They don't think of it as a treatment. The guy I told you about was talking to me. He was comfortable talking to me, leaving from his workplace to his home, and to him that was venting out. It wasn't treatment. So you mentioned the distance as well, that you do your work remotely with people in Yemen. We had about 7 to 8 female journalists, not only from Yemen, but also from Syria, Iraq, Gaza, the West Bank, and Libya. And you worked with them, you provided them with consultations, and we as an organization or others, if we tell you that you have 10 or 15 sessions only, where is the challenge for you in this regard? Some people say that therapy or treatment needs longer sessions, but when you are limited on sessions, what's the challenge? In total, I have 10 sessions on average, 7 to 10. It depends on the budget with the different organizations I work with. Even if we are talking about 10 sessions, they are not enough. And we need to understand here that in many cases, we are not trying to find a solution to psychological issues because of the work. So I'm not working on this person because he's traumatized because of a given event or incident. We're talking about people that may are suffering from traumas that started when they were 2 or 3. So every person is complex and they have different traumas. And this is one of the essential challenges for me. I can't cover much in 10 sessions. And sometimes I don't even get more than 3 sessions per person. One person told me that you are my hope that I become a better person, and it's made me feel bad because I wanted to give him as many sessions as I can to make him feel better. And now when I look at 3 or 5 sessions, I think I'm faced with a challenge to help people get better and change their lives. And I'm confused on what to start with and what to talk to. So again, we're not dealing with people who are traumatized because of an incident or two. For example, some people also have issues with their families, with their mothers. One time, while working or through a reach, I had to do an extra session with the husband of the ladies I worked with through the network. He was throwing things and he was angry. So I don't work with individuals. I work with systems, with environments, with families, and I need to fix the environment. So the challenge I face here is the few number of sessions for a huge number of issues. We'll take here a question. Someone once said that 2 or 3 sessions are not enough, and if we only have 2 or 3, it's better that we don't even start the therapy. In your opinion, what do you think is the optimal minimum number for sessions? What's the number of sessions that makes you comfortable to help a person become better? I can fix, for example, something or one aspect in 7 sessions and improve their performance. A lot of female journalists, for example, decide to stop working in this field or in this industry. So I'm challenged. I challenge myself to convince her to go back to work, to write and film. So I educate the people I deal with. We're giving them tools on psychology through the few number of sessions. This is what I can do to help them find solutions by themselves. Other than that, I can't fix everything or fix much through a few number of sessions. It's happened often with me that people start talking about sensitive issues, they collapse, they don't even continue, and they hang up on me. And because of the long distance and I don't have a lot of sessions, I don't want them to talk about sensitive issues and I don't ask them about sensitive issues. Aisha, I think you have a question, and also Maha. My question to Dr. Khalid is about psychological health. If journalists need support, can any psychological specialist help us and do this? I think that we need to have a psychological expert or specialist who are familiar with the journalism work. Another point, you talked about digital clinic, and I think we need to have enough time for this kind of clinic to work. Can we have sessions before we do our work, before we meet victims? I need to prepare myself through this clinic to do my work before I meet victims, especially if I expect that from doing this work I may be traumatized or psychologically traumatized because of doing a particular or a given job. And again, I think psychological specialists need to be aware of journalists' role and job nature. I think that in general, psychological specialists can help you, but ideally, it's better if they are specialized in traumas, psychological traumas. But we're talking about a fairly new science. It started 10 years ago. But for those of an older age, they are not maybe much aware about trauma and the psychological trauma. Like I said, it's fairly a new thing in psychology. Psychological therapy is highly based on having a good relation with someone I feel comfortable to talk to. And other things are secondary things. They are not the main thing. So the main thing is to have someone that you are comfortable to talk to. Regarding your second question, I think you're right, and it's important to be preventive. We are working with IMS, and tomorrow we'll have a workshop on management. Management is very important. How to handle employees and not to give them a job after a job they need to complete. So this is we should have preventive measures, and we have worked with Arij also on the course online, so that journalists, before they start working, they need to take this course. Any institution needs to ask journalists for a certificate from this program in order to be able to go to the ground or to the field. Mike, please. How about individual consultations? I'm not sure if she said that because she's not using the mic and I can't hear her. I think Maha can help you in this regard. There are a number of institutions that you can contact, and in this regard. Maha, you wanted to say something? Yeah. I wanted to clarify something. When I started talking, I talked about that we focus on female journalists because it's hard for them to speak up, but we also target male journalists because trauma happens to everyone. I also wanted to reiterate what Dr. Khalid said. It's really hard to give a lot of number sessions because we go through bureaucracy and we are on budget and we can't control this. We hope to give more sessions, but we can't due to the restrictions I mentioned. We try to contact the people, and Dr. Khalid sometimes give more sessions than we've already budgeted. But we try to have a holistic program. First of all, awareness raising, as I mentioned at the beginning. Then we have the personal consultation or one-on-one consultation, and the institution leaderships as well. And we have something for radio station, and Ashraqat will talk about it. Dr. Khalid was in one of the programs with Ashraqat, and they will talk about it more later. In this component, we raise awareness among the public. So the society needs to help the journalists. So they need to understand journalism and what are the kinds of things that journalists suffer from. So it's an integrated program and a holistic one with different components. Again, here we are giving Yemen as an example and the Yemeni program as an example, but we have programs in Egypt and other countries as well. This discussion is not limited to Yemen. It talks about Yemen or presents Yemen as an example. Before we go to Ashraqat now, I would like to remind you that all of those who need psychological consultation, it's better for them to look for clinics in their home countries. They may also ask or consult with some organizations because some organizations know about good psychological specialists or consultants. We work with Dr. Khalid Nasser and other specialists as well in other countries, especially in the countries where they don't have physical clinics. And we have Ashraqat Ibrahim now with us. And before we take more questions, let's hear from Ashraqat. And before we talk about the program or awareness raising program, let's talk about your personal experience. It's wonderful that you're ready to talk about your experience, to share it with people. And you are a rare example for journalists to speak up about their dilemmas and issues, who actually ask for support and consultation in public. Tell us more about your experience and why you want to share it with us. Good evening, and I'm sorry for being late. Like you said, some people may do not know that they need psychological support. If we have Yemenis here, they may understand what I'm talking about. We don't have this concept in Yemen. If I say that I need psychological help, that people will call me crazy. People in Yemen do not understand that psychological health is as important as physical health, maybe even more. I met Dr. Khalid in one of the workshops done by Lena Radio for 2 days. He talked about psychological health in general, and I felt comfortable with his words. We talked about practical tools, not theories. So when his words made me feel that pain was not inside me, it was physical. I felt pain in my body. And there are some things that I couldn't share with him while my colleagues were present. So I asked him if he is presents or gives private sessions, and he said yes. I had 5 or 6 sessions. I had someone also with me. It was my first time that I went to a psychiatrist. I was happy actually when he talked to me the first time. I cried. I felt comfortable. I felt he was like a father or a mother or a dear relative, and I was crying. He asked me to take a deep breath and talk comfortably. I was afraid at the beginning because I was talking about personal or private things. I rarely open up to people, even to people who are close to me. I remember him saying that each person is either a child or a too careful person inside themselves. And I was afraid of talking to him. I needed to know who he is to talk to. I learned that he works with the IMS. He's a psychiatrist, so I should feel comfortable talking to him. He won't leak private and personal information about me, but I felt comfortable talking to him from the first session. And one of the days I was very pressured because of the burdens, accumulative burdens. I suffered in my personal life with my family. I had personal issues, family issues since I was a child. And I talked to them about them to Dr. Khalid, and he told me that so it started since you was a child. That was this monster that you have or you had in you was when you were a kid, when you were 8 or 10, and you don't have it anymore inside you. And try to stop thinking about it. It does not exist. You are an adult now, and things that used to be in the past are not here or present today. I also had a lot of pressures from work, from colleagues, and from leaders. I was about to submit my resignation. I like all of them, respect all of them, but I almost submitted my resignation, and then I went to Dr. Khalid, and I was crying, and I was talking to him on a radio TV, and I was just saying welcome and good evening our guests, but I stopped and I couldn't continue. We were recording, it wasn't live. The sound engineer told the doctor that she is not feeling well. Then he after that sent me a message on WhatsApp. He said that I understand, and if you feel tired, talk to me.
So the sessions that I have sat with him really made a difference. He told me to close my eyes, relax, breathe in, breathe out until like this burden came out of me, and even I did my legs were numb. It's like a shock. I felt like cold water was falling over my head. It's just like as if he taken me back and woke me up again. That was like an incident that changed my life. So Ashrakat, so you said that there are two important points regarding what you did. So you seeked for mental health help. There are some like domestic issues that have been done in the past, and that's it. They finished in the past. But at the professional level, for example, some.
الاستشارة لما الظروف اللي أنا بعاني منها.
Sorry, can you hear me? Just so some Okay, so maybe you have had 6 sessions and then you come back and find the same circumstances, like the same pressure, maltreatment at the place, at the workplace, the security situations, the war, everything. Like it's still ongoing. So if we're journalists, if there are journalists and they doubt the counseling sessions, how do you deal with the stuff that is going on with your life? Okay, the him as a psychiatrist, he doesn't give me like medications or drugs or injections. He's like a close friend to you that you vent and then feel comfortable. When I feel like I have a burden over my chest and I cannot talk to him, I cannot do anything, just venting out to him makes me feel better. Then I will be, by that I'll be venting out all of my negative energy. And he really talks very little, like throughout a 3 hour session, or an hour a long session, he would say like 3 words. He just listens and listens deeply to you. It's not like a man, you're talking to him and he's playing with his phone or doing this and that. No. So he gives you the necessary attention. That's what he does. If I feel pressured and then I vent to him, I come back with new energy. This is reflected on my work. I am more pleased, more hardworking. I'm not sensitive towards anything said by my colleagues. So when I am stressed or burnt out, for any word that is said, I wouldn't just be patient with anyone. But after venting with him, I can take more from or be more patient with the people. Okay, Dr. Khalid, going back to you, to which extent can you express to the journalists that you do not give drugs, but that you provide tools to the journalists that help them to handle their day-to-day life and issues? So the idea is that normally I have like three types of people that I work with. The first group, the people who just need to vent. The second group is the people who need solutions. And 3, the skeptic people. Those skeptic people who do not, who are skeptic about the treatment, they usually do not benefit. So those who need solutions, if I note that there is dependency on me, like each time if something happens to me, they call me, or like if their life depends on me. If I want to, like, if I feel that a patient talks to me, if they just need to think and take minor decisions, then I perform my strategy, my slow withdrawal. So, but I will follow up. I explain to them that I am a person who is here to provide intervention, to teach you to teach you how to cure yourself, the internal therapist within you. We can all find solutions for our own lives. It's not it's unnecessary for us to depend on others to find solutions for us. And I would be helping you if I get out of the picture step by step and help you to walk on your own. I'm just a support to you. So here I want to comment many times, so I need you to think about this. Sometimes the institute focus and the founders, they have a budget, a special budget for treatment. So there will be a lot of talk, and Mahak was talking about this. So they would be saying, like, we have this budget to work with a certain number with the journalists, and this is the dilemma. The dilemma that a person may get people confused, that I work with the largest number of journalists in order to help as many as I can with the least. Okay, so should I work with the largest possible number? This is the dilemma for the international institutions. Should we work with the largest possible number with minimum length sessions, or minimum length sessions, or shall I give long sessions for a fewer number of journalists and cure them totally? So, based on the budget, maybe it's limited to 5 people throughout the whole year, and they will benefit. So 5 to benefit fully, better more than 20 people who benefited partially. Okay, questions? First question over here, and then the lady over there. Good evening, everyone. I really want to thank Dr. Khalid for his great efforts. My name is Muntasar Hamdan. I am a journalist. I have been working for 22 years, and I have got my master's degree in counseling, and also I have diploma in trauma therapy. What I want to say is that this program is excellent, but we need to understand, and I do agree with Dr. Khalid. Yes, we should take to a limited number of cases and achieve good results. It's better than dealing with a lot of cases without any benefits or results. But it's really important for us to be aware in the sessions. We should have, so the types of sessions are number 1, awareness raising, or counseling, or treatment sessions. So we should decide. Our focus is not on the treatment, but the core point over here, and that I want to share with the doctor, is that the most important thing is 2 points. Number 1, to seek assistance. That's when the whole process starts. So the journalist shouldn't be shy and say that shouldn't be shy to seek the assistance and claim that people will call him crazy. So, and the second point is that correct diagnosis. So, in order to provide the good help, in order to get good results, I should know exactly what is the case, good diagnosis. Otherwise, we will have negative results. Okay, I just would like to know from the journalists who are present over here, those who are ready to participate or share, who of you needed a consultancy and help but didn't know where to go? Mike, please, excuse me. Sir? Yeah, being shy? For us as Yemeni journalists, living in Yemen, there are many events, I have lost so many colleagues in the field. They were killed before my eyes. There were so many casualties of my colleagues. Many times I would be shooting a house, like shooting videos for a house, and then that house will be shelled. At many times I thought seriously of going to of visiting a psychiatrist, because for three full days you cannot communicate with your family because of the bad security situation and cut off communications. But so when I was in Yemen, I thought about that. But for us as journalists, we are supervised and our lives are at risk. So I cannot find a good psychiatrist that I can trust. Maybe they would be informative and give my information to the authorities, and then I would be arrested. Yeah, this is one type. So the same thing applies if we are out of Yemen. If somebody tracks you, this is like a concern. I always talk to my friends, males and females, and I tell them that there are things that I need to say, but to a person who only I may kill after that, or even become unconscious, fall out of conscience, and then die. So I cannot tell my stuff to anyone, just to anyone, because otherwise my life would be jeopardized. So the authorities would use anything against you, and then spreading rumors and deforming your reputation, etc. Okay. The next question over here. The third row. Yes. But first we'll listen to the response from Dr. Maha and Dr. Khalid. Please, one of you will start. Do not push each other. Okay. The idea is just as you said. The person should be willing to seek help. As you said, I have worked with a lot of journalists. Sometimes you run after journalists, and then she would agree, for example, and she attends one session or two sessions, and then she doesn't want to. So sometimes then you talk to her and see. So some of them need this push. And for the diagnosis, yes, I do agree with you. The diagnosis should be correct. But sometimes what I notice that some of them during the first, second, third sessions, they wouldn't trust me and they wouldn't tell me everything. So in one session, I knew in the ninth session, I knew something. She told me something. Had I knew it right from the beginning, it would have changed the whole treatment. So it was really important. And I was like, why did you just hide it until now? 9 sessions, you just wasted your time. So for your point, yeah, this is exactly what's happening with the journalists, males and females in Yemen and in Egypt. So they have requested IMS, and they told IMS that we do not want to work with somebody local, because if I talk to them, it's not because of lack of trust, but I do not. I know that the authorities will put pressure on him, so I will be jeopardizing his life and my life. So I do prefer somebody from outside, even online, VPNet or whatever, like a safe platform application, like some kind of secret or protected network. It would be better than going to a psychiatrist and then somebody taking a photo of me and then jeopardizing my life or his life. So this is the advantages of having a journalist working from long distance, not in the same country. I want to add one point. Yes, for sure, there would be lack of trust and fear from monitoring and also impacting the reputation. But Ashrakat said something really nice. You get body aches. The same applies to your mental status. And the journalist is taking the risk. Your work is risky. You are already jeopardized to deforming your reputation or monitoring at all by all means. So you should protect yourself. Protection is really required. Take the risk to protect yourself. This time you are trying to cure yourself. You are seeking treatment. You shouldn't be. You should be careful, and you should know with whom you are going to deal. But you shouldn't just stay put. Keep in your place. You shouldn't do that. Yes, you should be careful, but also you should take steps like the journalists in Egypt. They requested that the mental health doctor is not local, so but they moved. They sought help. So the mental health is just as important as the physical health. Another question from over there. Okay. My name is Sausan. I work in a developmental agency called Instant News. I'm really happy to attend this workshop. Maybe had it been 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been able to talk about this psychological issue and the trauma and what we're dealing with now. Sometimes we face difficulties in order to just understand that it is a psychological issue or a mental status issue. And also now we are working on the full aspect or full health of the full aspects of the health of the journalists. And I was telling them before, just give me money. I do not need mental health support, but I just need money. Give me money and my situation will get better instantly. So I wanted to ask about your radio program. When you have developed this program, why did you choose the sessions about each other, not maybe you have answered a little bit about it, but how did you design this program remotely and not closely with a local psychiatrist? And also, did you find any difficulties in the radio so that people would start communicating with you? And the number of listeners increased. And also another question for Dr. Khaled. Dealing with female journalists, are there certain criteria are sometimes really sensitive or difficult for women to discuss with men? So did you face such difficulties talking to women? Okay, let's start with the first question because you have asked for more information about the radio program. So Ashrakat, you are the one who prepares this program. Okay, yes. We wanted Dr. Khaled to be with us in Yemen, but because of the circumstances, he couldn't. At the beginning, it was really difficult because the Yemeni community still doesn't accept the mental health idea. It is an educated community to a certain extent. Choose the GATS a lot. What does so mental health doesn't really mean a lot to us in Yemen. So they used to be fearful to have the recording in order for the doctor to comment on it on air. So they will be calling, and then they would say, please do not use my name. And then they would fear what people would say, like Samah said 1, 2, 3, and then Samah is crazy, and all people would be saying that Samah is crazy. So throughout the social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, without mentioning names, we had a lot of such sessions. So he would solve the problems without mentioning the names. But in phase 2, when it was a live broadcast, there were no calls at all. People would be just listening. The second session was 2 calls. Third session, third program, 3 calls, etc. People started to understand it's not being crazy. It's about talking about losing someone close to you, someone who you care about, and then they started to understand that mental health is just as important as physical health. So they started to have awareness, and this was reflected on the increased number of calls, one session or one session after another. What can you tell us about Dima receives those problems? Yeah, I am the one who filters all of those problems. At the same time, there are female journalists that request a female mental health specialist, not a male. Yeah, but one time a female journalist said to me that I don't know why I do prefer to talk to a male, because his way of dealing with the problems would be different. So it was a surprise for us, because most of the female journalists, even not with only Dr. Khalid, but also with other specialists that we work with them, we have provided counseling sessions for around 17 female journalists. Only one of them said, I prefer to talk to a female because I don't feel comfortable with a male. So sometimes they may say some details if there are domestic problems, like marriage problems, and we always remind them, do not tell us about your personal problems. Just tell us like the sufficient number of the sufficient information just to decide whether you need to talk to Dr. Khalid or somebody else. And then we remind them that if you want to talk to a doctor, you should be prepared, because they will ask you personal questions. And the surprise was that most of them were, yes, we are ready. But of course, nevertheless, it is a must to have something different, someone different. Yeah, we received like only 1 or 2 cases requesting females to talk to. Female specialists. Ahmed Baida from Yemen. If we talked about mental health in Yemen, you just can't keep talking over and over and over. I believe like 28 million Yemenis need mental health specialists. Seriously, no kidding, man. Also, even men, me myself, I felt anxious because of the work, because it's a stress. My life changed. I am noting myself that I am being like very nervous, and I travel a lot when I go with the TV crews and the front lines and go to Ad and Taiz and Hudaida. So I used to note that once I get home, I'm not myself, man. So, like, if one of my kids takes something, I would no, put it down of your hands. And I started talking to myself. And then, for us, unfortunately, in Yemen, we do not have like a psychiatry or mental health. We only knew Dr. Khulaidi, who used to treat crazy people and lunatics in Yemen. That's it. And that's why we are so intimidated from psychiatrists, because we think that this is this doctor that sends you to the solidarity jail with the oldest people on earth with round eyeglasses who puts electricity on your head. So had we known that there are psychiatrists just like Dr. Khalid, we would have changed our minds. So I know that IMS, and I came at the end of your session with the Dutch Villa, and I was really upset because I didn't recognize the whole thing. I only came at the end, and you were like, you should relax, you should take a break, and I was like, I missed a lot. I really missed it. And thank God I got to attend this session. I'll be a client of yours. I need my own psychiatrist for my mom, for my wife, for the whole family. We will all be your clients. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I want to say something. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thanks. It's really important for sharing your side of the story. If you don't want to share, we do respect that, but also sharing helps us to understand and helps us to have a laugh, to overcome the obstacles. Yeah, Dr. Khalid, I have a question. Okay, regarding yesterday's session with Dutch Bali, it is recorded if you're interested to watch it. So, Dr. Khalid, there is something. If you are in an environment, and this is not only limited to Yemen, but also many of the Arab countries, they do not recognize mental health counseling and do not take it seriously. One time you had a case that a person needed counseling, and unfortunately the surrounding social circumstances were obstacles, and he didn't continue his counseling sessions. How do you deal with this case if he really needs and wants the treatment, but the people around him prevent him? Okay, I can talk about this, and Maha and myself were working on it. There was a Yemeni journalist from Hadramaut. I worked with him the first session, second session, the third session. He just disappeared. He vanished in air. I tried to call him once, twice, 3 times, and then his brother would pick up the phone. The first time he would say, okay, don't worry, we will send him to you. Oh, no worries, we will make him call you back. But then I tried the third time, or after a while, I tried again and again. Another person answers the phone. I think she might have been his mom or somebody from his relatives. And she was like, we took care of him. Now he's going to a sheikh. And if it's like if he was haunted by the unknown world, the jinns and the demons.
أزمة الهلع أو يعني نوبة الهلع تاعيته شافوه على أساس إنه هو
so they saw his panic attack and they thought that he went crazy and they thought that he was possessed, so they wanted to perform extrication on him, extortion. So they made him stop, and then they took him to those extortion sessions. So that's why I should differentiate between this, either this or that. So maybe we can take both sides. Like spiritual things are really important, but it couldn't be the sole intervention. You cannot just sit aside and read or recite Quran. You need to get treatment and recite Quran at the same time. You should have this spiritual side. I have also faced this in Yemen and in Lebanon. I had a she patient after 2 years of trying to get treated by the sheikhs. So yes, we have this culture even in Lebanon. So this has an impact. A question over there? Thank you. Doctor? So, in the newsrooms right now, most of them, they're trying to cut off budgets for the journalists, and if it's a non-conflict country. But those journalists in the newsrooms, they see ISIS videos, and this leads to trauma, to psychological trauma. So at the beginning in the journalism, we never thought about or never acknowledged the PTSD. But now, the journalists do not even need to go to the war fields. But still, we're seeing and watching violence and torture on the TV and on the reports while we are sitting on our desks, on our seat. So that we used to think that we have no problem, but now, no. How can we handle this problem? It is causing PTSD. And what is this course, the one that you talked about? Would it tackle this aspect? Okay. Before Dr. Khalid answers regarding the traumas that the newsroom journalists have, handling ISIS, etc. You have a DART website, and there is an article containing practical steps that even when you are watching those videos, there are certain techniques that you may be able to use so as to watch the video to a certain extent without needing to watch all details that because if you watch a lot of videos, even knowing that you're watching such a thing, you should watch it with a mindset that reduces the impact on you. So for us, Mary Colvin Network, we have translated this article into Arabic. It is available on our website, so it is only for our members, but we can activate it to be public. And when we post it on the website, you can read it. It is on DART in English and on our website in Arabic. Also, another important point that I want to focus on, thanks for mentioning DART Center. I work with them. I have been working with them for a while, and there was a training course for the international journalists, not only Arab journalists. And the culture of the mental health is new to the whole world, by the way. You shouldn't be thinking, oh, we're still falling back. No, the Arab journalists are working hand in hand with the international journalists. So previously there was some kind of ignorance or lack of interest in mental health for the by the journalists as a whole. So at the end of this course, you talked about the vicarious trauma. So watching a lot of painful scenes and then get pain from that. So in addition to the psychology, to the trauma, to the direct trauma. So this course talks about it, but not into details like the article that she just mentioned, Dima just mentioned. Because my trend is more regarding the anxiety and the trauma if a person is subjected to that. So this course is like a self-protection course. Okay, so our time is almost up. Maha, there is something that we haven't talked in detail. So can we say that there are psychological obstacles or impediments, like a person feeling ashamed from going to a counseling or even professional or social, but we didn't talk about the professional obstacles when the editor-in-chief, they are not interested or they do not care about the percentage of impact of their employees. We have noted that for some media institutes, they do not really care. Just for the journalists, you just go to the field, work like a machine, or work at the newsroom, watch all of those news and videos, etc. They don't really care about that. that. So you, as an institute working with other media institutes in the region, to which extent do you feel the need that to rehabilitate the management to look at the psychological stress for the employees? Okay, thank you, Dima. The journalist doesn't only face the social obstacles, even if they can acknowledge the story, and even in the workplace, even if they're working with an institute or as a freelance, but knowing that they will be working with institutes or colleagues with other groups, so they always have concerns. Number one, from being seen as helpless of performing his or her tasks. That's why he or she wouldn't be tasked more. That's why they wouldn't announce their needs or seek help. And another point is that they fear being seen by the boss and the colleagues at work that he or she are unqualified, and then they may be dismissed because they are incapable, and then he or she would get into a higher competition with himself and with his colleagues just to prove to himself that, yeah, I'm still good, I can do it, I still can do it, and then abstains from expression. Another point that you have mentioned is that sometimes the bosses, they know that that journalist isn't okay, yet I'll be giving him more and more work just to make him feel that he's normal and he's functioning. The balance is really important. How to handle the thing? How can he feel this safety and security? That's what really important. And we always, with our partners, we always reiterate and focus that they should deal with the case as if, like, when I go to my boss and I tell him I feel sick today, I need a sick leave, it doesn't mean that I'm helpless. It doesn't mean that I cannot continue. It doesn't mean that he or she should give me a bigger burden just to prove to me that I am good. So awareness raising is really important. Tomorrow there will be a workshop held for the heads of jobs. But our role, which is really important, is that we shouldn't stop right here. We should always remind others, and it should be a part of the policy that we give, that this should be available. Mental health should be always available. We should give reminders, and we should remind ourselves. We have a responsibility on our own that we should remember that we should, if we put pressure on them, they are pressured. So it's just like a cycle. Yeah, but we should be also aware. Maybe we can also put pressure without knowing that.
Let's take a final question. I think we can take 2 questions. Let's see. Yaqub Haji from Algeria, 7DZ electronic newspaper. You know that Algeria is in North Africa, and I would like to be candid when I talk about the status quo in Algeria. My participation this time in a REACH network was my initiative. I registered through the internet, and I was lucky to get the opportunity to be here. But in Algeria, you know that we have media blackouts. As you know, we don't get the chance to get to sources to support ourselves. Can we know about the projects that are relevant to Algerian journalists to support ourselves? Thank you. I also want to say that my colleague is here. She is responsible for Tunisia program in IMS, and she may be in a better position to answer you. Hello, Mr. Yaqub. How are you doing? In IMS, we are working on a program for Algeria from our office in Tunisia, and we are trying our best in IMS to coordinate the efforts for the Middle East and North Africa. My colleague here works for the program in Yemen, and we are in Tunisia, and we work for Algeria. Like you said, North Africa is countries in North Africa are close to each other, and they are closed, not open up to other countries. So we cooperate with each other, and sometimes it's really hard to get access to Algeria. Like you said, we're working on a new office in a new project in our office in Tunisia, and we are trying to pull the threads and get the different pieces together. Our dialogue is actually an open dialogue. We can talk for a long time, but we need to end up this session right now. You can talk to Dr. Khalid and Ashraqat after the session, or to me, or to Maha, of course. Thank you, Maha. There's also a networking activity that starts at 6 downstairs. I'm sure it has started. Thank you very much for coming here, and thank you for our guests and speaker. Thank you again.